Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Prosperity 101 Breakroom Economics Podcast. My name is Linda J. Hansen, your host. I seek to unleash the power of employers to reclaim and preserve America by educating employees about public policy issues that affect their jobs. I believe this leads to greater employee loyalty, engagement, and retention, and to an increased awareness of the blessings and responsibilities of living in a free society. Join us each week and be sure to visit prosperity101.com for resources and information. Thank you so much for joining with us today. It is just a pleasure to welcome my guest today. But before I introduce her, I want to say thank you to our prosperity partners, those who help us keep the podcast on the air by sharing financially, either monthly or just once in a while, a one-time gift as they're able. So if you'd like to become a prosperity partner, please visit prosperity101.com. Hit the Prosperity Partner link on the website and join us in sharing the freedom message. We also have wonderful strategic partners. One of them is actually my guest today. In an era when remote work has become normalized, it's easy to forget that nearly all businesses require a team in order to grow. Even solopreneurs, virtual assistants, can ease the load and help with their talents matching perfectly to the business owner and the needs of the company. I love what this guest has done. Elaine Baker and her husband, Brett, felt the need for her to start working as a virtual assistant. Brett is a military member, and their schedule of deployments and travel really interfered with Mary Elaine's ability to keep a steady job. And I appreciate so much how God led them to start VAUSA. Founded in 2018, VAUSA has changed lives by helping hundreds of clients and virtual assistants to gain more time to focus on their people, their purpose, and their passions by creating thriving working relationships all across the United States. This is an American company that is just founded on the principles that made America great. And it is just a joy to not only partner with VAUSA, but to promote VAUSA. And what an honor to have Mary Elaine with us today. Welcome, Mary Elaine.
Thank you, Linda. I am so happy to be here.
Well, we had a great pre-recording conversation where we got to know each other a little better. We originally met a couple years ago at a national conference with the U.S. Christian Chamber of Commerce. And at the time, I heard about your mission, your goals, what you had already accomplished with VAUSA, and I knew immediately that I needed to hire a VA through VAUSA. And I'm so thankful to say my VA is wonderful. And I also, as a customer of VAUSA, can say with all honesty, transparency, and enthusiasm that the processes you use and the customer service that is shown not only through my VA, but through the support team that as we work to hire, as we work to set goals and do training together, I mean, it's incredible. Your processes are amazing. Your people are amazing. And it is just, like I said, an honor to introduce you to my audience, but also it's a joy to work with my VA, Rachel.
Oh, thank you. God be the glory. We're just a vessel for all of this. And we just, I tell my people all the time, these aren't just clients. These aren't just VAs. What we're doing is creating relationships and making businesses be more impactful to impact their mission. And it's just a blessing to be able to do that and be a vessel for that to happen.
Well, it is, and you are a blessing, and I can attest to that from talking with other people working within VAUSA in different roles and how happy they are. It just seems like there's a great level of satisfaction. And but that really, doesn't come without planning, without purpose, without prayer. I know that you are a Christian, you and your husband are Christians, and you really wanted to bring Christian values to the workplace. And, it's interesting. We recently had a podcast interview with Andrew Crepuchetz from Red Balloon, another one of our strategic partners. And I've featured Andrew because their whole goal is to make sure people can be free to work and free to hire,
Hmm.
within their value system. And then how do you live out those values in the workplace? And I know you said, that's something very important to you and your husband as you
Hmm.
lead this company. So tell us a little bit about that. Like, what is it that, is really most important to you in terms of the mission and values of the company and how you live that out? Because I'm sure there's a lot of business owners listening right now who'd like to learn from your example.
Yeah, of course. So you mentioned a little bit about my story and how we started the company. Before I became a virtual assistant myself, I was a teacher. I was a full-time educator in the elementary public school system and was starting to feel extremely burnt out just from, well, I don't know how much you know about teachers, but that's a
A
high
lot.
stress job, low pay in and of
Uh-huh.
itself. But I loved education, and I think I recognized I had a gift for teaching and communicating. But the burnout was starting to kind of escalate year after year, just because my husband was deploying all the time. We had two young children. My paycheck was basically going straight to daycare, and I realized I wasn't the primary influence really in my children's lives, and I just needed to pivot to something that would give us more freedom. And I didn't even have that word for it. I didn't even realize what I was looking for. I just knew that the path that we were on wasn't going to be sustainable for our family and really my own mental health. So I went on a search of, okay, well, what's out there? What else exists that I can still use my gifts to serve others? Because that was always really important to me. But that I could still be present with my family and adaptable to our lifestyle. I really felt like I was looking for like a unicorn job out there. And my fifth year of teaching, my last year of teaching, my room mom was a virtual assistant herself. And she was volunteering in my classroom. And I just saw that she was always present for everything. And the more I learned about virtual assisting, I thought, okay, I could try this. So fast forward to I was a virtual assistant myself, loved my clients. I loved what I was doing. I loved learning everything about business. I loved learning how all the wheels on the bus work together. I just was frankly a nerd about it. And my clients were serial entrepreneurs themselves. And so I just learned so much about entrepreneurship because I was serving other entrepreneurs. And but God was really telling my husband and I, after we experienced this relief of I could be more present for my family, I could contribute financially, I was still using my gifts to serve others, and the stress level in our home is drastically lower, that this wasn't meant for just us. And that the problems that we were experiencing wasn't unique to the Baker family. This is a huge problem in America. And I started to do some research on it, like, well, how many other people? Because I had my friends asking me about it and they were interested. I realized, oh, okay, maybe this is a thing. And at that time, the unemployment rate for military spouses was 4 times higher than the national average. And that blew my mind. It just, here I am thinking, okay, this is a bigger problem to, oh my goodness, this is a major issue in America. And what I knew about most military spouses that I had encountered, and I grew up in a military family, so I had that background knowledge too, was that this lifestyle, if you survive it, if you adapt to it and you persevere, develops character traits in you that are incredibly valuable to any employer in America. I mean, any employer they're looking for people who are great under pressure. They can switch gears easily. They can be adaptable and flexible, and they're loyal. Um, Everyone wants that. Everyone wants that. And this lifestyle really helps fine tune those character traits in military families. And they don't sweat, they don't sweat the small stuff. Things can just really roll off their shoulder. And there's just constant problems and things happening that we just have to figure it out. And we're going to figure it out.
Mhm.
So tenacity is 10 out of 10 for my team,
Right.
and perseverance 10 out of 10. And we have just an incredible group of people. Your original question was, what values do you have? our three main values that we focus on, and we hire by these values and we fire by them, are authentic connection. We're looking for people who want to build real relationships built on a foundation of trust. If you're looking for a robot that just takes a checklist from you and does the check, they do it, but they don't care about you and your mission, and are truly invested in making sure that you're successful personally and professionally, and there's real trust in there so that you can give and receive feedback both ways, and no one crumbles, no one, wants to quit right away. That's what we're looking for. And so authentic connection, selfless service is the next one. We want people who find true joy in serving others. You can't dangle a carrot. You can't keep giving them raises to keep them motivated. They just genuinely find joy in using their gifts. This reminds me of a verse of one of my favorite verses, 1 Peter 4:10. But using your God-given gifts to serve others, and they know that that's their purpose. And the next one is intentional growth. We don't settle for the status quo. We are always looking to sharpen ourselves personally, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically. And we're always looking for opportunities to improve, not because we're trying to achieve perfection, but we're always looking to make 1%, one step closer to a better version of ourselves tomorrow than we were yesterday. Um, and that applies in every aspect: how they show up in work, how they show up in serving others, how they, that goes down to, are they anticipating needs? Are they taking initiative? And are they investing in their own personal growth?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so those are our three main values. And we honestly, we look for that in our clients. And most of our clients, I would say, naturally have that in them. I know you do. But we're relentless in that pursuit of growth, because we know that if we are growing ourselves and improving ourselves, it only impacts our ability to make a difference for other people.
It's so important. And as I mentioned, Andrew Cruikshank, I'll mention it again. In our last episode, we were talking about the importance of clarifying your mission, your vision, your values. When you are interviewing, when you're having those initial conversations. And I would say that even though Christian-owned companies do not necessarily always hire Christians, I mean, that would be discrimination, right? But
We can't do that.
yeah, you can't do that. And nor do I think that they would want to
Right.
necessarily, because it's having a diverse workplace is important, but diverse in terms of what we're talking about versus what the woke left calls diverse are two different
Yes.
things.
Very
And
different things.
yeah, and being
Hmm.
able to really adapt to people and their different gifts, abilities, experiences, and how you bring them into the VA USA family is just really incredible. I just think that there's so many different ways that VA USA could be a blessing to people in all different work and personal situations, because we can all use a little help sometimes.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And it takes humility to admit that you need help. But always, always like to remind people that in order to really operate in your gifting, there's always going to be a percentage of things that you're doing throughout the day that you're not great at. It drains you of energy. That's just life. There's always going to be those things that we're going to have to do because we have to do them. However, most of our time, I believe, or we're intended to be operating out of our gifting. Most of the work that we're doing in order to serve others should be done out of our gifting. So it takes kind of pausing and taking a looking at your life from a bird's eye view. Sometimes that's just letting go of something and delegating it to another person that's more qualified, or is at least going to do it as 80% as well as you do. And that's good enough. Most of the time, that's good enough.
Right. And, perfection is the enemy of,
Oh,
progress
yes.
sometimes. So, but it's so true. We don't always operate in our giftings. You can't do it all yourself. If you actually want to grow your business and be an effective leader and have a balanced life, you can't. There's just too much to do. And especially in this fast-paced society where so much is expected of us. Now, also, speaking of fast-paced, one of the things I do want to cover is, we talked talked before about different policies. And, this is a policy related broadcast, and I want people to understand how public policy affects their business and their opportunity for earning income, whether they are the entrepreneur or they are the employee. So, we talked about some of these issues, especially regarding the difference in states. So tell us what you've dealt with at the national level and then what you're experiencing in different states and how it impacts your business and the VAs that work for you.
hmm Yeah. So how we're structured, we have right now we're about 70 people are on our team, and they're all scattered throughout the United States and all different kinds of locations. But one of the concerns when we started the business, and even to this day, is how do we categorize our team? Are they 1099 contractors versus employees? And some states are very strict about these regulations, and you can't have contractors. Like California is one of those states. And I really wrestle with this because, and I'm a little bit fearful of this. Just like every year, I'm like, what's going to happen?
Mhm.
Because state by state, it could be different. So the issue with our company and just the dynamics of it is, yes, we're primarily military spouses, and what that means is our team, most of our team, they want the freedom to be a 1099 contractor. They want the ability to make income in other places if they want to. They have so much flexibility. They don't just have to work with us. Um, and they like the benefits of basically being able to operate as a solopreneur, as a freelance person. And they don't need a lot of the traditional benefits that employers provide because their spouse is a military member. So it doesn't even make sense for our people. It doesn't really make sense for us. And it does affect kind of what states we can hire from. And we have some clients that will be based out of California where their hands are really tied. It really just hurt. I feel so bad for business owners in states like that. I'm like, how do you even survive? It's
Right.
crazy out there. But yeah, that's a concern always of, well, what's going to happen? I mean, it was a big concern when Biden was in office. But I just, for now, I guess we just keep doing what we're doing, and it's working for us. But I would say that is definitely a concern.
The
That,
biggest thing is the
mhm.
inconsistency with the states,
Yeah.
50 laboratories of democracy, basically, the 50 states that really inform us about what policies work, what policies don't work, what policies help people flourish, and, what really diminishes, the quality of
Mhm.
life for the citizens in the state. And so it's so evident sometimes, and you wonder why people keep voting for these people who
Yeah.
keep,
Like, how is that
supporting.
working out
Right,
for
right.
you?
Right. And that's why I do what I do, because I really want employers to be empowered to share with their
hmm
employees, like, this really matters. So pay attention to
hmm
these policies at the very, very basic level. And then
Yes.
if you feel led, never telling them who to vote for or whatever, but
hmm
make sure you vote for the people who support the policies that will help you stay employed and prospering.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
common sense, but it's not really what happens, especially in some of
hmm
those states. But so
hmm
we see that there's differences in the states. Are there things at the federal level that you've had to deal with that you would like to, what the good, bad, and the ugly from there, and then what you'd like to see it be moving forward at the federal level?
So I'm always also concerned about the ability to operate freely as a Christian-based company. Um, I feel like Christian values are constantly under attack. Um, Sadly, in the country that was based on Christian values.
Right.
Um, but when we started the business, we weren't so bold and open about our faith. And I would say if you had conversations with us, my husband and I were open about it, but we weren't broadcasting our company as a faith-based company. And it wasn't until we were a few years into it that I felt very convicted about it, honestly. I felt like that's really who we are,
You are.
and I wanted to be open about that, and it was very important for us. So I can't, for me, I can't show up to my business one way and in my personal life a different way.
Right.
I just can't.
Well,
And
that's that authenticity you talked about.
yes,
If we truly love the Lord, it is an all the time relationship.
yes,
It is
I
something
can't
that we,
compartmentalize
right,
that.
right.
And so, and it was interesting, like year by year, it got harder to compartmentalize these things. And at some point, I want to say it was within the first year, definitely the second year, we started a Bible study with my team. And it grew and people were just, I mean, like you give God an opportunity to work somewhere and let that happen. I mean, you're going to just see incredible change in people. You're going to just see literally miracles happen. And I just thought, well, what would happen if I just completely unleashed this?
Mm-hmm.
And we also changed. So I didn't even state earlier what our mission statement is. So we create jobs and community for military families by strategically building remote teams for faith and purpose-driven businesses.
Love it.
We did not always say that so
Mm-hmm.
boldly. And our values, I mean, our uniques, what makes us different is we put our people over our profit. Our purpose is to use our God-given gifts to serve others. And and our, we use our business as a ministry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all on our website now. And I thought, okay, like I mean, like once we made that decision, I'm
Here
like,
we
I
go.
know we got to do it. I'm sweating a little bit because this was also in the thick of cancel culture. I mean, people were just being shut down on the internet left and right, and it was just ugly out there. And for whatever reason, I thought it'd be a great idea. That would be a great idea to just say this is who we are. I don't know, but as soon as we did, I mean, it just opened the doors for so many opportunities and meeting people, and it inspired other people to do the same. Or I would hear things like, that is so wonderful that you are able to do that. I wish I could, which opened the door to say,
You can.
you can. But the concern is always, well, how do we do this in a way that's legal?
Mm-hmm.
How do we use our freedoms? And that's what's confusing for so many Christian business owners is, yes, you can operate freely as a Christian company, but you can't be discriminatory in who
Right.
you hire and who you fire. And actually, it's encouraged for you to, if you're a Christian company and you aren't publicly declaring it, it's actually riskier for
Mm-hmm.
you from a legal perspective. And a lot of this knowledge I didn't know until I consulted with Alliance Defending Freedom.
Yes, yeah, ADF,
Yes,
Alliance Defending Freedom. Wonderful,
yes.
wonderful. I've
Oh
had
my goodness.
many of their people on my podcast as well. Wonderful.
Have you, because they helped me with that confidence and that,
Right.
knowing, okay, yes, this is a weird time in America. This is very sad. It's scary, all the things, but you can do this.
Right.
You just have to be willing to accept the fact that not everyone's going to like it and you're going
Right.
to get rejected. And we have dealt with a little bit of that
Mm-hmm.
online. But what I have found, and we obviously we don't have nothing but believers on our team. We have people in all kinds of backgrounds with their faith and religion, and um and I, I love that. I mean, that's what I want. As a Christian, we should be creating community and going out into the world,
Mm-hmm.
not to be of the world, but we're meant to go love
Everybody. Yes.
every single person.
Yeah.
So you can do that without compromising who you are.
Right.
You don't have to shape shift yourself into the culture of the world in order to be loving of the people of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that concept is so challenging and it's hard. And yes, it is scary because Christian business owners, they are being sued. They are being attacked. They are being, just um
Singled
just
out a little bit.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, but
And they are, but I would say too, some non-Christian business owners are as
oh yeah.
well if they
Hmm.
decide, to hire or fire. I mean, sometimes it's just if you fire someone and someone decides to claim that they were
You
fired
did it.
unjustly. Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of, Andrew was saying that out of the, 32 million private businesses in the US, 75% of them have had a labor law or a
Mhm.
labor lawsuit put against them in the past few years.
Yeah.
So it's,
I
what a
remember
drain. What a
my
drain.
attorney whenever we started the business, and it's teeny tiny at the 2018. I mean, we were still a very small business, but we were like really small then. But I was smart enough to know I should probably have an attorney to make sure we just start everything
Correct.
on the right foot and everything. So I remember sitting there in his office, and he was like, Marilyn, you just really need to accept the fact it's not a matter of if you're sued, but
Mhm.
when.
When? Hmm.
And I remember my husband being like, "Oh, that's a terrible thought."
Yeah.
But
Wait,
that's just
let
the
me rethink.
reality.
Yeah, it is. Well, and
Yeah.
you mentioned about being bold enough to be out front. And with Prosperity 101, it took me a long time to get bold enough to be out there more on social media. I don't know why I was involved in politics and all. I mean, I've
Hmm.
worked at national, like presidential level politics and things where, you're really on the national stage, you've been on national media, all these things. And for whatever reason, what is it that like makes us not promote? I could go raise millions of dollars or promote other
Hmm.
people, but when it came to really being more bold about promoting my work, I was like, oh yeah, I need to do that. Yeah, I should do
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
And but I really wanted to be bold about who I am as a believer too. And so
Hmm.
actually on my website it talks about like that my mission in life, if people said if you could sum it up in a sentence, it's to know Christ and make him known and to promote freedom and liberty throughout the land.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I feel like to know Christ and make him known in that encapsulates, my love for my family. It's God, family, country, really.
Hmm.
And God always reminds me of that order.
Hmm.
But it's just putting that out there tells people who I am. But then
Hmm.
actually, I started doing a Bible verse, like just posting a Bible verse graphic on a regular basis on social media. And I had a lot of people tell me, well, that's not very professional. Don't do that. It doesn't even have your branding. It doesn't have your website. It doesn't even have your branding. Now, I tend to use the same graphic that I created for it. So people, if they see it, if they see it over and over,
Hmm.
they know it. But when I'm like, well, that's not why I'm doing it.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
like, and every week I pray and ask the Lord, like, what verse is it that you want out there to this
Hmm.
time? And what is it? And honestly, when I started that, it was so interesting because some of the first ones had like my highest engagement in terms of social media. And I was like, well, who knew? You know? And
Hmm.
it's just important, I think, for us to be authentic, to be who we are. And,
Yes.
we will,
The enemy always wants us to play small,
right. Yeah.
like
Mhm.
to keep it private and to play small.
Right.
And
But that's not how we
um
change lives, though. That's
it,
not
it's
how we
it's
change
not, but
lives
I also think that's why we've gotten
in this
the
mess.
situations that we're in now is
Yeah.
because Christians didn't want to hurt other people's feelings, or they were
Hmm.
listening to that voice saying, "Shh, just be quiet, don't
Right.
ruffle any feathers."
Yeah.
That you could lose customers, you could lose friends, you could lose whatever. And I think it is one of the smartest tactics of the enemy to do that.
Hmm.
But something that encourages me whenever I get a little nervous or my hands are a little sweaty about do whatever, even just having this conversation, for a lot of people I know in business would be like, I could never go on a podcast and talk about these things.
Hmm.
Um, but one thing that helps remind me of why I'm doing this is when I remind myself of stories and things that are happening now all over the world. Christians are being killed
Hmm.
for their
Killed.
faith.
Right.
And where do you think things started from in that? And so if we in a country that is currently free start allowing these little policies or social culture to start, the ways of the world start telling us to be quiet, where could that turn to in the future? So it may not happen in our generation, it may not happen in my children's generation, but
It will
what
happen.
about their children? Right. Where does it stop?
Yeah. Yeah. And this is it. Things happen slowly until they happen all at once.
That's right.
And the
Right.
slide.
The enemy is very patient.
Right.
Very
And
patient.
those the enemies of America play the long game too.
Hmm.
And I would say, the patriots and the people like we want, oh yay, we had that victory or we did this and now the country's going to turn around. It took decades for it to be this way. I look at what's happened culturally and in the schools and things. I started homeschooling in 1984 because I had been really studying what the globalist plans were.
That was well before it was cool.
It was well before it was cool, and well before, yeah, it was very not cool, and well before it was legal across the country.
Mm.
So,
Hmm.
we literally picked the state we were going to live in. We had a choice of a region, and we picked the state we were going to live in based on the homeschooling law.
Wow.
And
Hmm.
so and it meant higher taxes. It meant
Hmm.
more expensive, living expenses and things, but the homeschool law was better. I'm old enough to know that there was a time when people literally were jailed if they homeschooled, and that even happened here in America. So educational freedom is so important. And I was telling you before we recorded that as I have grown my company, and even when I have been an employee for another organization or had needed to hire an employee or an assistant or something, I always looked for a homeschool mom or a stay-home mom,
Hmm.
somebody, not to be discriminatory against anybody else, but I will say, employers out there, if you are worried about hiring a mom or even a grandma, we have been through the trenches, and especially those of us who've been military moms. I mean, it's incredible. Like I've
Expert level project managers. Okay.
Right. Yeah. It's like you want somebody who can handle multiple things at once and pivot from this to that and deal with it and accept change and,
And be a
changing
problem
work
solver.
schedules. Yeah. Be
Hmm.
a problem solver and be willing to keep things moving. And those skills are really important. I think in an age of AI where, everything is looking at being automated and, especially remote, you talk about remote work, but
Hmm.
the wonderful thing about VA USA, it's building these relationships. So it isn't just some random remote work,
That's
right?
right.
It is, it's we are putting the humanity back into the ability to work remotely and to work with a flexible schedule and to take care of our family and keep our family first. And that's what's so incredibly important. So, well, before we close, I do. If you were just going to say something, go ahead.
You're just talking about the importance of family. I will say that is a shift since COVID that I would say has been amazing to watch.
Hmm.
I think so many people that that huge pause everywhere forced people to really think about their priorities in life, and they started to adjust their life accordingly. And
Hmm.
that's why one of the many reasons why homeschooling became way more popular in the past few years, and why people were saying, hey, I want to keep working from home. I don't want to be back in an office because I can still show up and serve and be productive and get the job done and make my family a priority. I think that's been one of the coolest things to see. And I think that has really revived some of those fundamental values that we've had in America to kind of wake people up to, oh my goodness, my work shouldn't be my number one, I'm worshiping my work, but why? Look at these beautiful humans that I have been called to steward in my home.
Hmm.
And it was testing so many marriages. We were like, wow, do I really like my spouse? Maybe I need to work on my marriage
Hmm.
more, because we've been ignoring some of
Hmm.
these major issues. And you break down the family unit, you break down the fabric of America. and
Absolutely.
and so our mission statement is we create jobs and community for
Hmm.
military families, and we didn't even have an opportunity to go into that yet, but I that community aspect of what we do is the heart of why we serve our people. Providing a job opportunity is a big deal, and it's a great way to start. But it's okay, now we have these people in our care to take care of and steward. Now what?
Hmm.
How can we show up as the organization, as the company, to continuously love and nurture them? And so one of the things that we created was called a freedom framework. And what that is we look at faith, family, finance, fun, and fitness I don't know why. I just really had to stick with all F's on this. And
It
then
works.
it does work and it sticks
Hmm.
in your head. And then we break down those into three categories: connect, creating opportunities for them to, social opportunities for them to really build relationships with their other team members all over the US. Serve, how do we show up and serve our people in times of hardships in any of those categories? And then grow, how do we educate our team in those areas? So we, if you can imagine this, this is essentially an Excel spreadsheet that, and it's a table in there. And so we fill in each one of these squares with different initiatives and programs to serve them. So, you know, forget traditional employer benefits. This is a creative way to serve and nurture your team. And honestly, this is what your team members are looking for and what they're wanting.
Definitely.
They want to know that they are cared for. They want to know they're just not another number on a piece of paper for you. And so how are you going to do that? It comes through action. So
Mhm.
that's my challenge to other employers out there. It's great if you're providing insurance. It's great if you're providing, healthcare and all of those things. But to me, that's that's like bare minimum
Basic.
requirements.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What are you doing to help them thrive in their life? And the reality is, most people don't know how to even manage a simple budget for their household. And
Hmm.
finance is one of the number one causes of divorce.
Hmm.
And if your team member is having financial distress in their home, it doesn't matter how many raises you give them. If they don't know how to effectively steward and manage their money, or if there's major communication issues between them and their spouse at home, you are not actually making a difference.
Hmm.
You're not.
Right. And when employees are struggling, they're not going to be bringing their best to their job
Correct.
because
Correct.
they just can't. And before we close, too, I do want to mention you mentioned something at the very beginning, and you
Mhm.
said that you realized you were spending more on daycare than you were earning or
Basically,
something.
my
Yeah.
whole paycheck was just paying for daycare.
And that is so common. I hear that from so
Yes.
many people. And
Yeah,
I
daycare is
don't,
so expensive.
it's so expensive. And then
Mhm.
you have, depending on your job, you have the wardrobe, you have the commute, you have the meals out, you have the extra things that your kids need because they're going to daycare above and beyond the daycare costs. You have
Yep.
just so many different things. And so I really encourage employers and employees, those of you who may need a VA, or
Mhm.
if you are a VA looking, or maybe you're not even
Mhm.
thinking like, oh, I could be a virtual assistant. Maybe you just have a skill set and you're like, oh, I can be a graphic designer and do this, or I could be a
Mhm.
film editor and do this. I could be an accountant and do this. I could be a writer and do this. There's all these different roles that people can
Right.
fill. So it isn't just managing calendars and emails or something like
Mhm.
that,
Mhm.
but that can be part of it.
Mhm.
Whatever it, I really encourage anybody who's looking for a meaningful job, a meaningful way to earn income and put their faith and their family first. I encourage them to reach out to you and VA USA, but also any employers out there or solopreneurs. Like, I can tell you firsthand, not just because they are a strategic partner with Prosperity 101. That came after I hired them. I was so impressed with them. I said, I'd really love to promote you at a higher level and be able to encourage others to engage with VA USA. But that's because you offer something that's so important. And
Thank you.
yeah. So before we close, could you let people know how they may contact you? And I really appreciate the fact that you came up with a great incentive for people to contact you as a result of listening to this podcast. Anytime if they contact you as a result of listening to this podcast, they're going to have some special incentives to do so.
Yes, absolutely. So if you go to our website, it's hire, VAUSA.com, and you go to the contact, there will be a drop down. How did you hear about us? So if you select this podcast, then you are going to get $500 off your onboarding fee
Awesome.
should you decide to use us to help serve you. So you'll get scheduled for a free matching consultation. And then once you make that decision, you'll be able to receive that discount.
That's incredible. And I know that your matching services are also just so high quality and very individualized. And I really appreciate that. So, again, listeners, please contact VAUSA at hirevausa.com. And any other closing comments before we say goodbye?
I just thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share. And then if anyone wants to continue the conversation or has any more questions, also you can email me directly. That's fine as well. So it's just Mary Elaine, my name, at hirevausa.com.
Well, that's perfect. And this so aligns with what I tried to do with Prosperity 101 in really empowering employers to educate employees about the policy issues that affect their jobs. You talked about helping employees thrive, letting them know that we care about them, letting them know that there are important issues, important information that will help them in all of their life, whether they work for that company or they don't. And so that's what I, really strive to do too. In fact, the first lesson in my online course is why am I taking this course? And it starts out with because your employer cares about you. So that's what we're trying to do. And I think if employers focus on that, there's the bottom line financially and the bottom line relationally. And I know for myself, I want to be able to hear, well done, thy good and faithful servant at the end of my life. And sometimes that, comes with great profitability. And sometimes it comes with, smaller opportunities and flexibility and time to caregive or take care of family. So whatever it is, I invite everyone to, just seek that out for yourself. But if VA USA is something that is attractive to you as an employer and someone who needs some administrative help or help in other areas, contact them. Or, you may be the one listening saying, boy, I'd love to work with that company. So contact hirevausa.com. So thank you so much. And thank you, Mary Elaine.
Thank you.
Thank you again for listening to the Prosperity 101 podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share, and leave a great review. Don't forget to visit prosperity101.com to access the entire podcast library, to order my newest book, Job Security Through Business Prosperity, the essential guide to understanding how policy affects your paycheck, or to enroll you or your employees in the Breakroom Economics online course. You can also receive the free ebook, 10 tips for helping employees understand how public policy affects their paychecks. Freedom is never free. Understanding the foundations of prosperity and the policies of prosperity will help you to protect prosperity as you become informed, involved, and impactful. Please contact us today at prosperity101.com to let us know how we can serve you. Thank you.